This podcast contains descriptions of violence against children and adult language and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Suffer the Little Children, the podcast giving voices back to the victims of child abuse murder and their families. I'm your host, Lane, and this is episode 186, Arianna Starkey, Part 1. On January 8, 2021, 27-year-old Destani Neel called 911, reporting that her boyfriend's daughter was having trouble breathing. Although 2-year-old Arianna Starkey was rushed to the hospital, she never regained consciousness, and she took her last breath 2 days later. Destani, a mother herself, had a story prepared for investigators, but her details kept changing, and it was immediately apparent that Arianna's death was not an accident. This is the story of a little girl who loved her big brother, her pink boots, and having tea parties with her nana. It's also the story of a mother who took out all of her frustrations on her boyfriend's innocent toddler, and a man whose intervention could have saved his daughter's life. This is part 1 of the harrowing story of Arianna Starkey. If you've been around since my blogging days, you may remember this little sweetheart. I initially wrote about her in February 2021, and I've followed her story ever since. I promised Arianna's family I'd tell her story on the podcast if and when they were ready. It's been a difficult 3.5 years for her family, but in the next episode, Part 2, you'll hear my recent conversation with Arianna's nana, Christina, who plans to use her grief as motivation to make changes that will help other families. But first, here is Arianna's story. 15-year-old Cassie Marie Belknap met and began dating 18-year-old Austin Lee Starkey when a friend introduced the two in March 2014. Within a few months, the young couple discovered they were pregnant, and their son, who I'll call KB, was born in April 2015. On March 20th, 2016, 17-year-old Cassie and 20-year-old Austin were married at the Gassaway Methodist Church in Gassaway, West Virginia. Soon afterward, the couple moved into their own place in nearby Flatwoods. 2.5 years later, the young family welcomed another baby. Arianna Jade Starkey was born in Buchanan, West Virginia on November 27, 2018. It's not a coincidence that you're hearing this episode on what would have been Arianna's 6th birthday. Arianna, whose family sometimes called her Ari, was a happy, easygoing baby from the start. Cassie's mom, Christina Justice, who the kids called Nana, said she'd never seen a baby smile as much as their little Arianna did. Christina adored KB and Arianna more than life itself. Cassie posted on Facebook just days after Arianna was born,
"I have never seen someone love their grandchildren as much as my mother loves my kids."
Arianna's big brother was also crazy about his new baby sister. Unfortunately, not everyone in the family was quite as happy. Cassie found that Austin had a temper, and after things got physical, Cassie left her husband in November 2019 before Arianna turned 1. She would rather bounce between the homes of her mom and her maternal grandparents than stay with Austin, who she eventually divorced. Austin reportedly didn't have much to do with his 2 kids for a while after the breakup. Nana Christina happily picked up some of the slack, caring for her grandbabies most weekends. Not long after the breakup, Cassie met and began dating her future husband, Jerry Nichols. Right around the same time, Austin decided he wanted to see the kids twice a week, which Cassie agreed to do to keep the peace. That's not quite the way it went, though. Whenever Austin picked the kids up or dropped them off, he was prickly with Cassie, starting arguments more often than not. Christina told her daughter that Austin, who she felt was jealous that Cassie had moved on, only wanted to see his kids so he could needle his ex-wife. Regardless, Cassie wasn't changing her mind. By early 2020, she and Jerry were expecting their first baby together. Not to be outdone, in the summer of 2020, Austin began dating 27-year-old Destani Neel, who lived in Logan, Ohio, about a 2.5-hour drive from Cassie's home in West Virginia. Cassie and her mom hoped Austin's new relationship would distract him enough that he'd stop arguing with her. Nope. After one custody exchange in October 2020, Cassie called Christina and told her that Austin had brought Destani with him to pick up the kids, and the salty new girlfriend had something to say. Cassie told her mom,
"She yelled and swore at me for no reason."
Because of Destini's temperament, Cassie refused to let Austin take the kids that day, which Christina reassured her had been the right thing to do. They continued to believe that until a few days later, when Austin filed for emergency custody of the kids, saying they were being abused and neglected in Cassie's care. Because the COVID-19 pandemic was, by this time, in full swing, the court hearing was held remotely, and the judge granted Austin temporary custody of the kids while the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Services, or DHHS, investigated the abuse claims. Cassie was, for obvious reasons, crushed by these developments, but Christina vowed they'd fight to get the kids back. They were granted supervised visits, and they last saw Arianna on November 26, 2020, during one of these visits at the home of Austin's grandparents, where she believed her son and daughter were living. Arianna wasn't present at the next visit on New Year's Day 2021, when Austin's grandma, Evelyn Anderson, met her at Pizza Hut with KB. On November 27, 2020, Arianna turned 2. By that time, she was a fun little girl with fine blonde hair and big blue eyes, and she had just recently become obsessed with Dora the Explorer and Minnie Mouse. Cassie gave birth to her third child, a perfectly healthy and beautiful baby girl I'll call RN, just before Christmas. And there was more good news. Around the same time, DHHS had determined no adverse findings against Cassie and closed the investigation. Finally, she had hope that she'd regain custody of KB and Arianna. Before that could happen, late on the evening of January 8, 2021, Cassie got the call every mother dreads. There was an incident with Arianna, who was badly hurt and had been taken to the hospital in Logan, Ohio. Early the next morning, Cassie and her mom set out for Ohio, along with Cassie's newborn and a friend who graciously agreed to drive them. When they finally arrived in Logan, before heading to the hospital, Cassie and Christina were asked to come first to the police barracks so investigators could prepare them for what they were about to see. That's how bad it was. Hocking County Sheriff's investigators showed them photos of their precious Ari lying, still and silent, in a hospital bed, intubated, hooked up to various tubes and wires. Her hair was shaved, and she wore a neck brace. Her entire head was swollen, her face and body badly bruised, her eyes swollen shut. The sight was so disturbing that Cassie fell to the floor in tears, and Christina threw up. So, what happened? Let's start with hearing Destani Neel's 911 call, which took place on Friday, January 8, 2021, at 4:09 p.m. I've only edited the call for time by shortening some of the silences.
911, where's emergency?
My boyfriend's daughter, I was in the bathroom and her neck was around the part of her bed and she's like stacked up her bed.
What's your address, ma'am?
I'm scared she's been falling off the bed and I left the room for 1 minute.
Okay, is she breathing?
Yeah, she's breathing. I'm COVID positive and we can't leave the house and I don't know what to do.
Okay, just stay there. Is she stuck between the bed?
No, I got her loose and she's breathing but not big breath.
Okay. Just try to keep her as comfortable as she can be right now, okay?
Okay.
So, the main thing is that we don't want her moving around or anything.
Okay, I tried to do CPR. I don't know a whole lot, and I tried to move her tongue around.
If she said she is breathing, I don't want you to do CPR, okay?
Okay, I didn't know. I don't know anything about this.
How old is she?
She's 2.
How long was she stuck in the bed frame, do you know?
No, I've been in the bathroom for like 10 minutes. She's been falling off the bed. I guess I should have known better. We just got custody of him.
Okay. How's she doing right now?
She's good. She's got her eyes open, but she's low breath.
Okay.
Annie, honey, I need you to breathe, baby. Come on, open your eyes. Breathe, baby. We gotta let Daddy know what's going on. Honey, I wish you would just... Aaron, baby.
If she's talking, or if she's able to talk right now, that's great, but it would be best if she's having a problem.
Her body pretty red, but her lips are a little purple.
Do what's going on, ma'am?
She's going a little purple.
Okay. Is she blinking, or is she...
There we go. There we go. Get in my breast, baby. Come on. She's not blinking, sir. Come on, Aaron. Draw on my breast.
Okay. So what I want you to do, ma'am, is you said she was 2 years old.
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and put her onto her right side?
Right side. Okay. Right side.
I know I don't want any pillows or anything underneath of her neck.
She's going purple.
She's doing what, ma'am?
She's going purple.
Is she breathing? Can you tell if her chest is going up and down?
No.
Okay.
Come on, baby. Come on. There's someone on the way.
Yes, they're on the way right now, ma'am. So her chest is not going up and down?
She's like pulling breath. I feel her heart beating.
Her heart is beating, but can you tell if there's any air going in and out of her nose?
No. Come on, baby.
Okay, ma'am. Can you go ahead and put her back onto her back?
Yeah, she's on her back.
Okay.
Is someone close?
Is she making any sounds?
No.
Okay. Ma'am, are you comfortable starting CPR with me?
I don't know how, but I can try.
Okay.
Do I pump?
There's no...
Do I blow air?
Is there?
I'm sorry?
Can you put me on speakerphone, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and put me on speakerphone. Set me beside her, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Come on, baby.
Listen carefully. I'm about to tell you what to do.
Okay.
Go ahead and make sure they're flat on her back on a hard surface, and I want you to kneel beside her, okay?
Okay.
Okay, put the heel of one of your hands on the center of her chest, right between her nipples, and then push down hard and fast, about 2 inches in deep.
Okay.
Allow the chest to return to its normal position between each pump, okay?
Okay.
And try to pump twice every second. So we're going to get about 100 to 120 compressions, okay?
Okay.
So go ahead and just count out loud with me, okay?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
2, 3.
A little faster.
2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
3.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Just keep going until they get to you, okay? Is your door unlocked?
No, unlock the door. I got my 4-year-old done to unlock the door. Hurry, baby, go unlock it.
Okay, just keep going, okay?
Hurry, go, hurry. Hurry, go, hurry. Hurry.
Okay, if he's not able to get that door open, I need you to run and get the door open, ma'am.
Let him in, come on. Jesus, her head was stuck in the thing while I was in the bathroom. Can I call her dad? Can I get off there and call her dad?
Yeah, ma'am, what was your name?
What did I tell him?
Destani, who has 2 kids of her own, told the 911 operator that she found Arianna with her neck kind of wrapped around a bedpost. She also mentioned that she performed CPR on Arianna while her heart was beating. I understand ignorant, but come on. CPR is intended to keep a person's blood pumping when their heart isn't. Maybe I've just watched too many Dr. Mike videos on YouTube. Chest compressions, chest compressions, chest compressions. During the call, you can hear Destini's 4-year-old daughter, who I'll call MN, talking in the background. The operator mistook her little voice for Arianna, who Destani soon told him wasn't breathing. He walked her through performing proper CPR until Hocking County EMS arrived at the Logan Place apartment complex at 1010 Hayden Place. Destini's daughter unlocked the front door and let them into apartment 15. Inside, 2-year-old Arianna was in an upstairs bedroom, not breathing. Upon seeing Arianna's severe injuries, paramedics immediately suspected abuse. One of them actually stated,
"She's fucking black and blue head to toe."
After requesting that law enforcement meet them at the hospital, EMS quickly loaded Arianna into the ambulance and rushed her to Hocking Valley Community Hospital. When the ambulance arrived at the hospital, paramedics were able to regain Arianna's pulse before rushing her into the trauma room. Medical staff cut off Arianna's clothing, which investigators collected as evidence. They also noted that she was covered head to toe with bruises and cuts, including her head and genital area. Soon, Arianna was med-flighted about 50 miles away to Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus for emergency treatment, where she was placed on life support. Because of the suspicious injuries in the areas covered by her diaper, hospital staff performed a sexual assault collection kit. To this day, the family doesn't know if that kit was ever processed, and if so, what the results were. Police who responded to the apartment after Arianna had been transported to the hospital asked Destani, who was on the phone with Austin when they arrived, what happened. According to Destani, she took off Arianna's pull-up diaper, planning to
switch her panties out.
She said that she and all of the kids had been sick with COVID-19. Destani felt a bout of diarrhea coming on, so she went into the bathroom, leaving Arianna upstairs, playing on the bunk bed with Destani's 4- and 1-year-old kids. The police incident report noted a couple of times when Destani mentioned that she had taken off Arianna's diaper. She seemed weirdly fixated on that fact. She said that Arianna was
pretty good
about being potty trained, and that she threw a diaper on Arianna a couple of times a day, but she didn't have to change her very often. Then she said she had to change Arianna's clothes at least once a day because of potty accidents, adding that when Arianna defecated in her pants and all over the floor, she awakened that morning to find Arianna trying to bathe herself while Austin was downstairs cleaning up the floor. Destani told police,
"I woke up to that mess."
Destani said she turned on the water for Arianna and
hosed her off
in the bathtub before putting a diaper on her. Investigators noted that Destani seemed agitated or angry when talking about that incident. She also mentioned that EMS yelled at her because Arianna wasn't wearing a pull-up, but that she didn't have time to explain the situation before they rushed Arianna to the hospital. The way she described it to police was that the girls were upstairs playing with their Barbies when she walked in and told Arianna,
"Let's change your pull-up real quick."
After pulling off Arianna's pull-up, Destani said, she put pants on her and let the kids go play while she snuck off to the bathroom because she had diarrhea and had gone in her own pants earlier. Destani said she was on the toilet playing on her phone for about 15 minutes when her daughter ran in, yelling that Arianna got her head stuck. Without even taking
the time to flush the toilet or nothing,
Destani said, she ran into the bedroom where she found Arianna lying on the bed with her head or neck stuck between the mattress and the bed frame, right at the top of the bed's ladder. When she pulled the bed back to pull Arianna out, Destani said, the baby went
a little limp.
Arianna was having trouble breathing and making only short, broken breaths, Destani said, so she grabbed the baby by the mouth, stuck her fingers in to make sure her mouth and throat were clear, tried standing her up to no effect, and finally called 911. She told them these were the
scariest moments of my life.
When investigators asked who was currently in the home, Destani told them it was just her and her 2 children. Austin and his kids, she said, lived with his grandparents in Spencer, West Virginia. At the time of Arianna's injury, her older brother was with their paternal grandparents. According to Destani, they hadn't yet made the decision to live together officially, although court documents later listed the same address for the 2 of them. At first, Destani claimed that Arianna had only come to the apartment the night before. Soon, her story changed, saying Arianna was there for a day, then a few days. After that, she said that Austin and Arianna arrived on Wednesday, January 6th, after seeing Arianna's mother. This was a complete fabrication. Cassie hadn't seen her daughter since November. Investigators noted that Destani seemed evasive about answering questions and hesitated when answering questions about the incident. Destani also told police that while she was dating Austin, it was made clear to her, although she didn't mention by whom, that she was not the kid's stepmother. I'll pause here for a quick sponsor break. When asked about the myriad bruises covering Arianna's body, Destani said most of it happened because the kids
Jumped from chair to couch to chair.
and often ran around the house. When a detective pointed out that one of the marks was a handprint, Destani played dumb, insisting she had no idea how it got there, and suggesting it happened when she smacked Arianna on her back to get her breathing. The detective also pointed out another bruise in Arianna's private area, to which Destani said she did notice
A little bruise above her hoo-ha.
just that morning and put some bruise cream on it. She also told police that Arianna took iron supplements. Destani told a detective on Thursday Arianna had
Busted her face.
on Destini's knee because there was no bath mat down on the wet bathroom floor. She also claimed that happened Monday or Tuesday, and then she said it was Tuesday or Wednesday night. Her stories had numerous inconsistencies, and they just weren't adding up. By the time Destani called her mother to come watch her kids so police could actually talk with her, investigators had been at the apartment for 40 minutes. During that time, Destani had not once asked about Arianna's condition. Police called Children's Services to come in at about 5:45 p.m. When they arrived about an hour later, investigators briefed the caseworker on the situation before spending some time convincing Destani to go to the hospital to get checked out, which she finally agreed to because, she said, police were going to make her. While they waited for transport, police questioned the next-door neighbor, Jessica Lehman, who said she didn't know the neighbors well. However, she said, 10 minutes before first responders arrived, she heard two loud booms, one right after the other. The first was loud, but the second was quite a bit louder, making her think someone had fallen in the upstairs bathroom of apartment 15. Destani was taken to Hocking Valley Community Hospital, where she was medically assessed for possible breathing difficulties before detectives interviewed her on site. During triage, Destani, who seemed calm and rational, told a nurse that she wanted to kill herself, so a detective conducted a mental health assessment. Destani told the detective that after Arianna got hurt, her kids were taken away, and because her kids were her whole world, she had no reason to live and wanted to kill herself. The detective ultimately stayed quiet and let Destani ramble. She began talking about Arianna, saying she had an iron deficiency and took medication. She also said Arianna had behavioral problems, never stopped moving, was hard to deal with, and bruised easily. The night before, she said, she tried to catch Arianna when she threw herself off the top bunk, and she frequently had to grab Arianna's arms so she wouldn't hurt herself, but when she did, Arianna would jerk away and try to hit her head off the nearest surface. Destani told the detective that she noticed a large bruise on Arianna's pelvic area, and that when Arianna had a bout of explosive diarrhea, Destani cleaned her up and noticed some bleeding, so she put Vaseline on the area. From 8 p.m. through the end of that interview at around midnight, Destani showed emotion about her situation and about her kids being taken away, but again, she didn't once ask about Arianna's condition. Meanwhile, Austin was interviewed in the hospital cafeteria, telling detectives he split his time between Destani's home in Logan and his grandparents in West Virginia. He said he had worked off and on at Lululemon outside Columbus for the past month and a half, working nights. Austin said he had left for work at 3:30 p.m. that day, and at 4:16 he received a call from Destani, who told him the ambulance was there because Arianna got stuck in the bunk bed and was blue. Before he left for work, he said Arianna was fine, sitting on the floor and playing with toys, but had some bruises and a swollen mark under her left eye from when she slung her head forward into Destani's knee as Destani was cleaning Arianna's chapped lips in the living room. Strange. Destani told police Arianna had slipped on the wet floor in the bathroom and hit her face on Destani's knee. Austin said that Arianna had been harming herself recently, saying something about scheduling an appointment with a behavioral doctor, and added that some of her other bruises were from Arianna slinging herself to the floor when she was angry or tired. Oh, and he added that Arianna was so tired from a lack of sleep that she sometimes fell over. Asked about the handprint on Arianna's body, Austin said his daughter had low iron and that as a result she bruised easily, such as from setting her in a chair, laying her down in bed, or putting her on the couch. He didn't see the bruising near Arianna's private area. He did, however, tell the detective that the last time he saw Arianna unclothed was that morning when he was drying her off from a bath, but just minutes before, he had told the detective that he didn't remember the last time he bathed Arianna, saying it had been a while. He was just as inept at keeping his story straight as his girlfriend was. When investigators asked if Arianna had been sexually assaulted because she had bruising around her genitals, he said no. A detective asked Austin if the pictures of Arianna's bruising showed injuries consistent with a little girl throwing herself to the floor, and he agreed they didn't. Because of his work schedule, he said, his girlfriend spent the most time with Arianna. Austin said that Arianna had a doctor's appointment for a checkup at about 1 p.m. that day, but because he had to work, he didn't take her, although he wished he had. He admitted that before leaving for work that day, the injuries he observed on Arianna were bruises around her eye, on her forehead, down her back, on her genital area, and in different spots on her backside. One detective asked him if, while drying his daughter off earlier that day, his eyes had been closed, because how could he not have seen the marks? Austin explained that every time he asked Destani about Arianna's bruises, she told him Arianna fell, threw herself to the floor, flung herself, or hit her head, and he didn't know what to believe. If he was in the detective's position, they asked him, what would he think? Austin admitted that he would think Arianna was being abused by either him or Destani. He had no explanation for why the neighbor reported hearing 2 large booms from Destani's apartment at around 3:30, saying he had gone to the store for medication, cough drops, and Mountain Dew. When he left for work around 3:50, he said, Arianna was playing in the bedroom with MN. She was standing, he later claimed, and he gave her a hug. Here's a detail that made me see red, so prepare yourself. At 7:20 p.m., the detectives received word that among Arianna's injuries were tears to her anal and vaginal areas. They asked Austin what could have caused that, and he said Destani gave her a bath, and she also fell out of bed. I have to give these detectives a ton of credit for refraining from putting his head through the cafeteria wall. I've never heard a less plausible excuse for anything. Austin's interview ended around 7:25 p.m., but 2 hours later, after he had been placed into the hospital's COVID room, he asked to speak with one of the detectives who interviewed him. He had texted back and forth with Destani, he said, and in one message, Destani expressed worry that she was going to go to jail. Austin wondered why his girlfriend felt guilty about Arianna's injury if it was an accident. He said he had never seen Destani abuse his daughter, but he did question her about several of the injuries. In the meantime, Hocking County Prosecutor Ryan Black filed for an emergency ex parte order for the state to take custody of Arianna as well as Destani's 2 children. Ominously, in the police report, the investigator wrote,
Due to potential for sexual abuse, they were transported by Investigator Bentley to Nationwide Children's Hospital for examination.
Prosecutor Black's office also gave the go-ahead for the sheriff's office to arrest both 24-year-old Arianna Starkey and 27-year-old Destani Neel on charges of permitting child abuse, a first-degree felony, and endangering children, a second-degree felony. These would not be the final charges. Just after midnight, both Austin and Destani were transported by van due to their COVID status and booked into the Southeastern Ohio Regional Jail. Police obtained a search warrant for Destani and Austin's apartment, and when the warrant was executed, they took into evidence several pieces of bedding, stained tissues, and a pull-up, several of the items bearing bodily fluids. They also cut out and collected 2 stains from the mattress in the master bedroom and a piece of the upstairs hallway drywall that bore an indentation resembling someone's head being shoved into the wall with force. Later, they would obtain additional search warrants, allowing them to collect more evidence. This included blood and saliva samples from both Destani and Austin, which later came back showing no drugs. From the apartment, police collected DNA swabs of various stains, stained clothing and diapers, a tube of bruise cream, 2 bunk bed mattresses, and a bed frame. One of the stains was blood spatter found on the hallway door. Blood-stained tissues and washcloths found in the home later proved to contain DNA consistent with Arianna's. Police also obtained search warrants for Austin's vehicle, his and Destani's cell phones, of which Destani had 2, Destani's Facebook page, and both of their belongings that they brought into the jail with them, including their clothes from that day. Interestingly, although it doesn't appear to have anything to do with the attack on Arianna, when police searched Austin's Hyundai Santa Fe, they found a 9mm handgun in the glove compartment and a loaded 9mm magazine in the center console. Their cell phones were turned over to an FBI Violent Crimes Task Force officer to be forensically downloaded. Surveillance video showed Austin on that very day, January 8, 2021, throwing 3 bags of trash into the dumpster before leaving the apartment complex at 3:47 p.m., presumably going to work. From the dumpster, they recovered the trash that Austin threw away on his way to work that day, in which they found a pillow and pillowcase that both appeared to be in good condition except for what appeared to be brown fluids. They also recovered a purple shirt with a picture of a flower on it, size 3T, which was torn along the side seam on the left side. Otherwise, the shirt was in good condition and did not appear to have been used as a rag. The officer who documented the evidence wrote,
"The shirt appeared to have been deliberately torn, or as if in an act of violence that I have witnessed in the past from handling hundreds of assaults of domestic violence, bar fights, or other acts of violence. This was very alarming to me as an investigator that a child's shirt could be torn in this manner."
The following day, on Saturday, January 9, 2021, detectives, as well as Prosecutor Black, met with medical staff in the NICU at Nationwide, where they learned about the seriousness of Arianna's injuries, as well as the fact that they were soon going to test her for any brain activity. Things were looking incredibly grim. On Saturday, January 9th, detectives contacted Austin's grandparents, Evelyn and Mike Anderson, who said they had last seen Arianna the day after Christmas, when she had a bruise smaller than a dime on her left cheek. They confirmed Austin's claim that Arianna would have tantrums during which she would throw herself to the ground and hit her head on the floor. As I mentioned earlier, Cassie, her newborn, and her mother, Christina, made the trip to Ohio that day, where they first met with investigators at the Hocking County Sheriff's Office. They learned that Arianna was in critical condition, which was backed up by the photos that caused Cassie to collapse and Christina to vomit, and briefed on the investigation into Destani and Austin. Only then did they go to Nationwide to see Arianna lying unconscious in the PICU with tubes and wires all over her, her little eyelids swollen and purple, her head covered with a purple knit hat, the lower half of her face covered with medical tape holding the ventilator tube in place. I'll take another moment to hear from my sponsors. Investigators met with Austin again that night in the jail's inmate visitation room. After waiving his Miranda rights and looking at photos, Austin finally admitted that he had witnessed Destani abusing his daughter for the past 4 or 5 days. During one incident around January 4th, he saw Destani grab Arianna by her sides and throw her into the bathtub, where she hit her back and head on the wall of the shower. When Arianna cried, Austin picked her up, but Destani got angry, saying he was babying her. After this, he laid Arianna down before going downstairs to hang out with Destani and her kids. That incident caused bruising to Arianna's back and the back of her head. During another incident around January 7th, Austin said Arianna was biting Destani's finger, and when he bent over to pick up the trash, he heard a smack, which sounded like Destani had hit Arianna, who fell on her butt. Afterward, he saw that Arianna had bruising on her left cheek and near her eye. The same day, Austin also saw Destani drag Arianna up the stairs by her left wrist, and she later told him that his daughter had fallen out of bed. In addition, if Arianna refused to eat while sitting at the table, Destani would grab her and yank her forcefully off the chair. She began treating Arianna differently than she treated her children, he said. Austin claimed Arianna was 18 months behind in cognitive and communication skills, which aggravated Destani, who was also angry that they had to keep buying pull-ups for Arianna. For the record, according to Christina, Arianna was not 18 months behind in anything. When Arianna used her pull-up instead of going to the bathroom, Austin said, especially if she didn't tell anyone she had a dirty diaper, Destani would spank her 2 or 3 times. This treatment began around December 30th, 2020. I can't even begin to tell you how many kids I've talked about on this podcast who died because of a caregiver's anger over potty training issues. Remember, Arianna had just turned 2. Austin claimed these spankings had likely caused the bruises on Arianna's backside. Austin's phone was somehow synced to Destini's, and Austin gave investigators permission at that point to review his cell phone. They found various text messages that Destini sent to Austin the night of Arianna's injury, reading,
I'm so sorry. I never would purposely hurt that girl. I tried getting her to breathe and standing. This is on me. They're gonna take me.
A few minutes later, she sent a few texts to her brother, Destani Neel, saying,
She already had bruises, but her head was stuck in the bed and went purple. I had to call 911. Think I'm a baby abuser. I'm just so exhausted. I don't even have the energy to mess with the kids. I just want to raise my damn kids, man.
They also found a video of Arianna on December 30th, 2020, in which she seemed fine and healthy, counting her numbers. During another interview, this one on Monday, January 11th, 2021, investigators asked Austin about the trash bags he threw away before leaving for work the day of Arianna's injury. Austin said he didn't know what was in the trash bags. When asked about Arianna's purple shirt with a flower on it, he said she had worn it a couple of days before, but it was torn. He thought that was the shirt she was wearing when, after she bit Destini dragged her up the stairs, which is likely when it tore along the seam. Before that interview, however, the worst-case scenario became reality. Arianna had no signs of brain activity. On Sunday morning, Christina cared for Cassie's newborn, while Cassie said goodbye to her older daughter. On January 10, 2021, at 12:14 p.m., 2-year-old Arianna Jade Starkey was pronounced dead. Kind nurses made impressions of Arianna's handprints for her mama to remember her by. Someone claiming to be Destini's ex wrote in a true crime forum,
She is a good mother. I would know. She's my baby mama, and me and her have a daughter together. And her son, who she just had last January, is with her now ex-husband. She only been dating that Austin dude since September. She loves her kids and is a great mother, so I can tell you this is facts. She wasn't there when the child abuse happened because she would not let that happen. I know that for a fact. She had to have got to his apartment after he abused his daughter, but was there when the cops came. Wrong place, wrong time? I think it was because I know Destini better than anyone. We were engaged. Also, Destini isn't the one responsible for the child abuse. He is. And she should not have to go through this BS of people talking bad about her because she's a great mom to her kids. This dude obviously has a drug problem. Also, Destini don't do drugs at all, not even weed, so we all see who the monster piece of shit is. And that's Austin Starkey. #FreeDestiny.
Of course, other forum members had a field day with his utter lack of punctuation and his claims of his baby mama's innocence. He was more than happy to argue with them.
She didn't do shit. It was 100% him. She wasn't even at his apartment until after it happened. And then she was just there when the cops came, so they arrested her too. But she wasn't even there, didn't even know he abused his daughter. So it's actually unfair to say she did it when she didn't. She's a mother of 2 and loves her kids and is a great mother.
When someone challenged him, he retorted,
Like I said, she wasn't there at the apartment until afterwards, so she wasn't there when it happened. So how could she stop it when she wasn't there when it happened? She showed up after it happened.
To another comment asking how Destini could have been ignorant to Austin's supposed abuse, the man wrote back,
Again, like I said, she only been dating him since September. She didn't know him that long. People can keep secrets from each other. Duh.
Then why was she arrested, someone asked.
If you were somewhere when the police showed up and a child had suffered abuse, you would be charged too, for just being there, even if you weren't there when it happened.
Later in the thread, the man added nonsensically,
She had something on her record from 2018 that was because of her now ex-husband, but yeah, if you want to look that up, you can, but her ex-husband's was a kleptomaniac though.
For what it's worth, Destini's 2 children did appear happy and healthy in multiple photos she posted of them on Facebook. Police got in touch with Destini's father, David Neel, who told them his daughter's relationship with Austin Starkey appeared to be good and that she had recently ended an abusive relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Cameron Richards, who is the father of her 1-year-old son. It's not clear whether Destini and Cameron were legally married, but the police incident report mentions that Destani Neel was otherwise known as Destini Richards. David told police that he felt his daughter was a good mother, but he could see her sometimes getting overwhelmed while caring for 3 kids. However, he said he had never seen her yell at any of the kids. He and Destini spoke on the phone on the day of Arianna's injury, beginning at 3:47 p.m. and ending at 3:58 p.m., and David said everything seemed fine during that call. 11 minutes after they hung up, Destani called 911. Arianna was taken to the Franklin County Coroner's Office, where, on January 13th, forensic pathologist Dr. Manisha Pandey performed an autopsy. Arianna was measured at 33 inches tall, which is in the 90th percentile for her age, and at the time of her death, she weighed 33 pounds, putting her between the 10th and 25th percentile for her age. Arianna had long blonde hair, at least before it was shaved, and the report noted sparse and absent hair in the occipital area, which is the back of the head just above the nape of the neck. During the autopsy, Arianna tested positive for COVID-19, although that didn't contribute to her death. Dr. Pandey found a plethora of injuries of varying ages on Arianna's body. This included bruises all over Arianna's head, neck, chest, abdomen, back, buttocks, left arm, left wrist, fingers, right ankle, right thigh, and both feet. She also had internal bruises on her large bowel and her mesentery, which is a membrane that attaches the intestines to the abdominal wall. Those types of internal contusions are caused by blunt abdominal trauma, most often from a seatbelt during a car crash. The autopsy report also documented multiple scabbed abrasions on Arianna's head, neck, and torso, and it mentioned that the hospital had noted that air had leaked into the space between her lungs, which again is often caused by blunt trauma. She had a displaced fracture of her left clavicle, meaning it was snapped right in half, and the two ends apart instead of where they were supposed to be. On top of all that, Arianna had suffered swelling in her brain, as well as bleeding between her skull and her scalp, between her brain and her skull along the brainstem, between the membrane covering her brain and the brain itself, along her spinal cord, in her throat tissues, and in both eyes. Her right retina was detached. There were also hemorrhages at the base of the skull, near the spine, which are usually caused by high-energy trauma, such as a car accident, in which the victim experiences hyperextension or hyperflexion of the neck. This means Arianna's neck was bent forward or forced back past its normal range of motion in a sudden, violent action. The pathologist also confirmed that there was trauma to the baby's genital and anal area that was suggestive of sexual assault. Dr. Pandey determined that Arianna's death was a homicide caused by multiple blunt force trauma. According to police reports, at the time she attacked Arianna, 5-foot-tall Destani weighed about 360 pounds. I'm not saying that to weight shame her. I'm mentioning it to point out how terrifying it must have been for tiny Arianna, who was under 3 feet tall and less than a tenth of Destini's weight. Put yourself in that baby's shoes for a moment. Imagine how she felt when someone literally 10 times her size, who she was supposed to be able to trust, physically attacked her, doing something so vicious to her that her tiny neck extended violently, either forward or back, something that left countless injuries inside and outside of her helpless little body and made her brain bleed so badly she couldn't survive it. If that's not enough to boil your blood, I don't know what is. On January 13th, Austin and Destani attended a bond hearing in Hocking County Municipal Court. Their bail was set at $500,000. At their preliminary hearing a week later, their charges were bound over to the Hocking County Grand Jury for consideration, and their bond was continued. The family was allowed to see Arianna before the funeral. With her head shaved and her little body black and blue, she was nearly unrecognizable. Close family and friends attended Arianna's private funeral. Arianna was interred in the Belknap Family Cemetery in Braxton County, West Virginia. She was laid to rest in a beautiful, long, lacy pink gown, sparkly pink shoes, a pink beaded princess bracelet, and a flower crown, all thanks to her Nana. Christina also bought a matching crown for Cassie as a keepsake. Arianna's headstone is in the shape of a butterfly cut from glossy black stone. It also features a picture of Arianna wearing her favorite pink boots. Time for one last sponsor break. On February 11, 2021, Destini's 4-year-old daughter, MN, was interviewed at Nationwide Children's Hospital Child Assessment Center, and she had a number of very interesting things to say. She told the interviewer that Arianna was at the hospital and she was dead. Mom tried to wake her up. Then, MN smacked her hands together, saying, "Boom." MN said something about Arianna being dead while watching TV, followed by, "Mom tried to wake her up, and she wasn't listening." She also mentioned the hospital again before clapping her hands together twice more, while telling the interviewer her mom said, "Boom, boom." MN said something about her mom being on the toilet and trying to wake Arianna. Arianna had gone downstairs, she said, adding, "Mom told her to come up here now. Mom told Arianna she had to go to bed." Another time, the girl said, Arianna had purple eyes. When asked how that happened, MN started to say something that sounded like, "She stepped." Then the girl knocked over a chair and went silent. The interviewer asked her what she meant, and MN said she was sitting on the table downstairs and Arianna was dead. MN told the interviewer she had never seen Arianna get spanked or hit. It's impossible to tell exactly what that little girl witnessed, but it's heartbreaking nonetheless. On February 26th, the Hocking County Grand Jury indicted Austin and Destani each on 6 felony charges. Austin's charges included felonious assault, permitting child abuse, murder, tampering with evidence, and 2 separate charges of endangering children. Destani was indicted for aggravated murder of a victim under 13, making it a capital case. Her other charges included felonious assault, 2 counts of endangering children, and 2 counts of murder. When announcing Austin and Destani's upgraded charges, prosecuting attorney Ryan R. Black said,
"These are tragic circumstances. Nothing is more unconscionable than the murder of a child, made especially horrific by it being perpetrated by the victim's caregivers. The brutality involved makes this case particularly difficult to stomach. It also demonstrates just how necessary it is to be absolutely tireless in our pursuit of justice for Arianna. I am confident that the determined work of the Hocking County Sheriff's Office detectives and investigators have built a strong case, and that it will lead to an equally strong result. We have every intention of using every resource available in that pursuit."
Hocking County Sheriff Lanny E. North said,
"Cases involving the murder of innocent children, especially when they are so young, are among the most heinous cases that law enforcement officers are ever tasked with investigating. I would like to thank Prosecutor Black and his assistant prosecutors, and the detectives who spent countless hours on this case to make sure it was investigated thoroughly, so justice could be sought on behalf of Arianna."
In July 2021, 6 months after Arianna's murder, 25-year-old Austin accepted a plea agreement, pleading guilty to charges of permitting child abuse, evidence tampering, and endangering children. His charges of permitting child abuse and third-degree felony endangering were merged. A condition of the plea agreement was that Austin would testify against Destani if her case went to trial. At the plea hearing on Tuesday, July 6, 2021, Hocking County Assistant Prosecutor Ryan Stickle told Judge John T. Wallace that although Destani Neel was directly responsible for Arianna's death, Austin bore responsibility for allowing it to occur instead of intervening to protect his daughter.
"She met her death while in the care of her own father, but it was not at his hands. He chose Destani Neel over Arianna Starkey, and it led to her death."
Arianna's nana, Christina, gave an emotional victim impact statement, telling Austin,
"I will never forgive you for what you have done."
She said that Arianna's older brother, KB,
wakes up every morning asking for his sister. Why didn't her own father protect her? How and why did he let this happen to this sweet, innocent baby girl?
Judge Wallace said of Austin,
"His crime was one of omission,"
adding that even animals
ferociously
protect their offspring. Austin, however,
chose his relationship over his far more important relationship
with his daughter. The judge spoke directly to Austin, saying he had hoped without success to read some emotion on the young man's face during the hearing. He told Austin he should consider himself
very lucky
to be offered the plea agreement, which Assistant Prosecutor Stickles suggested only occurred due to Austin's supporting role in the crime. Austin was sentenced to 10 to 15 years in state prison, with credit for time served. In the meantime, Destani's attorneys retained multiple experts to prepare for her defense, including a consulting investigator, a mitigation specialist, a consulting psychologist, and experts in the field of pediatric medicine, pediatric critical care, pediatric neurology, and child abuse. While awaiting trial, she remained in the Southeastern Ohio Regional Jail on an increased bond of $1 million. Her children were placed into the custody of Hocking County Children's Services when Arianna was hospitalized, but as far as I can tell, they are now with Destini's mother. When Judge John Wallace, who had overseen the case up till that point, retired at the end of March 2022, Destini still hadn't gone to trial, which isn't unusual, especially during the pandemic. The Ohio Supreme Court assigned former Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Judge Janet Burnside to preside over what was, at the time, Hocking County's only pending death penalty case. This was after Destini wrote a letter to the court asking to fire one of her public defenders, Kirk McVeigh. Mr. McVeigh filed his own motion to withdraw from Destini's case, saying his communication with her had
broken down to a point of irreparable harm.
Shocking that such a charming woman would turn out to be impossible to work with, huh? As it turned out, Destini never did make it to trial. In Hocking County Common Pleas Court in May 2022, Destini pleaded guilty to her most serious charge, aggravated murder. To facilitate her plea, the state agreed to dismiss the specification that the victim was under 13, which was what made the crime a capital offense. The state also dismissed the rest of Destini's charges, 2 counts of murder, felonious assault, and 2 counts of endangering children. No charges were ever filed addressing the possible sexual assault. On May 9, 2022, Judge Burnside sentenced 28-year-old Destini to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. If she is ever released, she will have to register as a violent offender. Arianna's family expected Destini, as a mother herself, to show at least a modicum of remorse, but she sat through her plea hearing with a blank expression on her face, even appearing bored as she listened to the details about Arianna's murder. Austin Lee Starkey, Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, inmate number A789097, is now 28. He is serving his sentence in the Belmont Correctional Institution in St. Clairsville, Ohio. His parole eligibility date is listed as December 27, 2030. 31-year-old Destani Neel, ODRC inmate number W109188, is incarcerated in the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville, where she's likely rubbing elbows with a couple of other prime specimens of motherhood I've covered in the past. 27-year-old Tina Dayton is serving at least 18 years for the death of her son, Jace, who turned 2 just days before his mother killed him on October 8, 2019. I covered Jace's story in a Patreon-exclusive bonus minisode, which I will eventually release on my main feed. 32-year-old Brittany Mays is another stomach-turning inmate. Brittany pleaded guilty in January 2020 to the aggravated murder of her 4-year-old daughter, Avery Lee Hobbs, whose story you can hear in episode 154. Anyone who's heard Avery Lee's story can attest that Brittany's photo should be next to the dictionary entry for psycho hose beast. She was sentenced to 20 years to life. Destini will have plenty of time to get to know her fellow inmates. Her first parole hearing isn't set to take place until November 2040. On a more positive note, Cassie Belknap married her husband, Jerry Nichols, on May 25, 2021. In addition to Cassie's son, KB, who's now 9.5, the couple's daughter is just about to turn 4. Those 2 babies, as well as their angel sister, Arianna, are their Nana's life. You'll hear my conversation with Christina in part 2. Before I end this episode, let's take a moment to remember Arianna and what a special, much-loved little girl she was. Her obituary read, Arianna Jade Starkey, 2-year-old daughter of Cassie Marie Belknap, passed away on Sunday, January 10, 2021. She was born November 27, 2018, in Buchanan, West Virginia. The Lord is with this sweet young lady who loved to play dress-up and dance around. She enjoyed having her afternoon tea in her tea sets and loved to eat M&Ms. You would often see her walking around in her pink boots. Playing with her dollies was one of her favorite hobbies. She liked her fingernails and toenails to be painted. One would often hear Arianna singing her favorite song called Baby Mine by She Daisy from Dumbo. Rest well, sweet girl. You've left your mark on this world, and you'll never be forgotten. My sources for this episode were WLWT, the Logan Hocking Times, Spalding and Kitzler, the Dream and Demon Forums, Ohio Revised Code, 10WBNS, the Athens Messenger, the Hocking County Municipal Court website, the Southeastern Ohio Regional Jail website, the Hocking County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, the Athens News, the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins Medicine, Facebook, Take a Break Magazine, the Roach Funeral Home, and Christina Justice. Quick shout-outs to my newest patrons, Tammy M. from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and Celeste A. from Oaks, North Dakota. Thank you to all of my patrons for your support. I couldn't keep this show going without you. To help support the show, you can visit patreon.com/stlcpod. That's it for this episode. Join me next time for my conversation with Arianna's Nana, Christina Justice. If you like the show, please follow or subscribe to Suffer the Little Children on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast listening app. And please leave me a 5-star rating and a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. Visit the website at sufferthelittlechildrenpod.com. You can support the show by visiting patreon.com/stlcpod, where you can become a patron for rewards ranging from a shout-out by name on the show to bonus content and exclusive gifts. You can also support the show at ko-fi.com/stlcpod. Follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Suffer the Little Children Pod and on TikTok at STLCpod. View photos related to today's episode on Facebook. This podcast is researched, written, hosted, edited, and produced by Lane. Intro theme music is by Dream Note Music, and all music for the show is licensed from audiojungle.net. For more information about preventing or reporting child abuse, visit childhelp.org or call your area's child abuse hotline. And remember, if you see something, say something.